With Tanya Plibersek, Chris Bowen and now Jim Chalmers all pulling out of the Labor leadership race, the left faction's Anthony Albanese will be elected unopposed. It will be a coronation and not a contest, but at least it will spare them the public humiliation of scrapping for votes over the next 4 weeks and avoid leaving the field wide open for the coalition ahead of the Parliament's return. Our system is based on the Westminster tradition, so there has to be Her Majesty's opposition and, of course, someone to lead it. Despite appearances of trench warfare, in my 6 years working for a party leader, there's plenty of cooperation. Indeed, during the 2010 hung Parliament, it might surprise you to know that over 80% of the Gillard government's legislation was in fact supported by the then opposition, the coalition. Behind closed doors, there's often meetings between both leaders to settle bipartisan issues like defence or national security. And it helps our country if, even when they disagree, the opposition leader is decent, competent and trustworthy. So it would appear today that it's congratulations to Albo, who is by far the most senior and experienced of the Labor frontbenchers. He was the Transport Minister and leader of the House of Representatives throughout the Rudd-Gillard era, and he was Deputy Prime Minister for a few months under Kevin Rudd. My strongest memory of him during that time was his consistent support for Rudd, even though he was Julia Gillard's Leader of the House. To him, to Albanese, knifing a first-term Prime Minister was wrong. And while he copped a lot of heat, he never wavered in that view and honoured Rudd with his vote right to the end. Now, Albanese is personable and a skilled parliamentary debater. He's relatable in a way Bill Shorten could never be. But the middle-of-the-road Labor leader that Labor most needs now, well, Albanese is not that man. He's been on the wrong side of all the big debates of recent years, including opposing the government's border protection policies and even now refusing to say whether or not he'd support the Adani mine. His position on the US alliance, too, is problematic, to say the least. In the absence of a government meltdown, Labor can't win the next election with the same soak-the-middle-class agenda of the last few years, nor Labor's pro-green, pro-union agenda. That won't win them any friends. Yet Albo is hardly the man to junk these class war policies, despite saying he wants to be Bob Hawke Mark II. As PM Hawke famously tried to bring the country together, cutting deals with all key interest groups. And for a Labor PM, he had remarkably centrist, even centre-right policies. Floating the dollar, deregulating banking, cutting tariffs and beginning privatisation. By contrast, Albanese thinks that his mission in life is to, quote, hate Tories. It's a weird phrase to use here in Australia, as Tories is the term used for the British Conservative Party by the British Labor Party. And any Australian Labor type who uses the term is deliberately employing it as a term of abuse. And it's not Hawke's name clearly that he needs to invoke, but that Labor's policies, Hawke's Labor policies, that he's got to replicate if he has any chance of turning his party around. Changing leaders means nothing if Labor doesn't heed the lessons of Saturday night, where the old Labor Party base left them because the Labor Party had long left its base. I should say that the arrival of a new Labor leader is, of course, as good a chance as any to give some credit here to Bill Shorten. Now, as you know, if you watch this program, I was certainly no fan of Labor's pre-election policies. Shorten should have moved to the centre, not the left, to maximise his chances of success. And as both Gillard and Rudd discovered, he could be ruthless and swap sides when it suited him. Still, when he shook hands on a deal during my time in dealing with him and his office, I have to say it always stuck. I wish him and Chloe well in whatever comes next. Politics is a brutal business, and I've always said respecting your opponent is the first step in beating them. The Libs never underestimated Shorten, but it's clear that Labor underestimated Scott Morrison. But I doubt they'll make that mistake again.